Can we all just agree that Siege needs some sort of preferential mic matchmaking? Hey, what's up guys, Irish Tail here, and in today's video, we'll talk to you guys about something that recently I have really wished Siege would implement into their games. Now this, as I said, is some sort of preferential matchmaking where I can choose to play with people who actually use their microphones. Now I know this might sound to a lot of people like a really pointless little feature, but I'm going to give you some backstory as to why this has become such an annoyance for me in the last few days. So for any of you guys that may be aware or happen to watch Grief Drum streams, a guy I play with on a regular basis, recently we've had quite a few bad games on Siege, and it ended up being recently that only 4 of us were online out of the group we normally play with, and we happened to get randoms in the last few ranked games we played. In those games, the people that we played with either didn't have microphones and were playing high level ranked, or had microphones but said they couldn't use them for some unknown bewildering reason. Now this in itself wouldn't annoy me too much, it's only 1 player out of 5, it's not the end of the world, but it kind of gave me a little gateway into what I was going to start getting into over the next few days. Basically, the team that I play with, we've been losing quite badly recently, and basically just a streak of losses, and we've decided to take a little break, well, the guys have decided to take a little break from Siege. Now I thought, you know what, I'm not really bothered about my rank this season, I've already gotten Platinum, I've got the charm that I want, I'm not really bothered about Diamond, so I'm going to just keep playing ranked and see how it goes on my own. And the issue with people not having microphones just became more and more compounded as I started playing. I noticed in every single game, more often than not, 4 out of 4 of the teammates that I had either didn't have microphones, didn't use them, or didn't speak my own language, making there basically a huge communication barrier between the two sides. And I think that Ubisoft could really do with something to try and improve this system for players. Now obviously I'm aware adding in some sort of preferential matchmaking system can cause huge issues within a game. For example, it increases the queue times, it reduces player pools, and of course people can just lie on those sorts of things, negatively affecting them. But hear me out, okay? Honestly, I think this would be a huge benefit to the Siege player base. Now personally, when I play ranked, I like to talk to my team, I like to know what they're doing, what they're seeing, how they've died and what's happened. Communication is a huge portion of the Siege gameplay, and it's a really important factor when you're playing in any kind of round, because you need to know what's going on, what your teammates are seeing, what they're planning on doing, and also where they've died from. These are just key bits of information that you need to know just on a generic basis. I can't be expected as a random player on your team to know how you died and where from. You have to get on your microphone and tell me that, and players that don't do that are absolutely some of the worst I've ever played with. And what makes these kind of people worse is 9 times out of 10, the guys who don't have microphones are overly toxic and aggressive and blame you for a loss, and then you're like, but you weren't speaking to me, and, you know, I can't help it if you're not going to tell me where an enemy is when you die. And if you put it in chat, and some people can argue, hey, I use chat, I give information. Yes, that's fine, but that is not the same as speaking. There is a time delay between typing out, he is here in this location, or just verbally saying it. It is faster to say it. And personally, I just think there needs to be some way that I can choose to play with people who will use their microphones and speak English. All it would take is literally a setting when you tick on to ranked, and you know, this could only be a ranked feature. In casual, it doesn't matter, it's casual, but ranked, I think, needs this feature. It should just be a case of clicking on ranked, and then in the settings for ranked, having something like, I prefer to play with people who have microphones or use microphones. And again, it would just be a simple little change. And then again, if I was playing in that kind of preferential mode and I got somebody who didn't have a microphone who ticked that, all I would have to do is click report, not using microphone, and suddenly they would, if they got so many reports, say in a time period of like a day or a week, they would then get moved down to the non-microphone preferential pool, and basically after a certain time period, they would be banned from going back into it, and eventually they'd be allowed back in, and obviously rinse and repeat the system. I think that would be a great system to use. Not only does it then mean that you've got people that you can speak to, but it also means it deters people from lying, because they would be removed from this pool for lying about their preferences as to what they want. And I just think this would be a huge benefit to the game. And again, you could do the same thing for the language barrier. Obviously, with the servers that you have in Rainbow Six Siege, you have the American servers and you have the European servers. Now, in the American servers, it's not a huge issue. Most Americans will speak English. In the EU, though, however, we have a huge disparity between different language groups. We have French, we have German, we have Spanish. There's a huge list of different kind of people with different language barriers. And all it would take is just to say, hey, I would prefer to play with people who speak English and use a microphone. And again, there are issues with this system, don't get me wrong. You would have, longer queue times, potentially fewer players to play with. But at the end of the day, if this system only sort of affected who was on your team, it wouldn't make that much of a difference in the long term. So you have to think, hey, if this just says microphone matchmaking, or preferred microphone matchmaking on my team, at the end of the day, that means my team then have, people that have microphones. Yes, again, you have that issue that there are imbalances there. So if you're playing with a big group of players who have microphone versus those who don't, there is potential there, for players to not have as balanced a game that way. But that is your choice. If you choose not to use a microphone, you are already putting yourself at a disadvantage, and that was your own choice. That is the choice that you have made. Therefore, if you want to do that, I should have every right to play with people who use microphones. I shouldn't be penalised because my teammates don't. And it's just one of those things. If you're one of those people that don't use microphones, you are a huge problem to your team. And I know that sounds horrible, and I know this is not going to be popular opinion with a lot of people, but if you are one of the people that don't plug in your microphone and use it, you are a massive detriment to your team, in the sense that you cannot give live information, you cannot give up-to-date information. If you're alive and you stop to type, you put yourself at a vulnerability, your team at a vulnerability, and it's just not helpful. Realistically, there needs to be some sort of option, because like I said, when I played ranked on my own solo queuing, it was the worst experience I've ever had when it comes to playing with people that don't have microphones. And again, the other issue is these people are always accusatory of other people in their team. If I lose a game because an teammate isn't making calls, somehow it's my fault. Take, for example, I was on a game on Skyscraper, I think it was, and the enemy was in the kitchen downstairs. I was up in Geisha. Now, my teammate had gone downstairs and died to the pulse. I didn't know it was a pulse. I didn't know the guy had C4. I just went, oh, he's dead. Where is he? And the guy didn't tell me where he was. I got no information from this teammate. Then as I tried to breach in through the double windows on Geisha, I got a C4 to my feet and I died from below. Now that teammate then went to me, why didn't you know he was there? Shouldn't you have been looking for that? That's your fault. You shouldn't have gone in that way. It was a pulse. You were going to die. You knew where you were. And I was like, well, you didn't tell me any of this information. You didn't verbalise any of it to me. And he literally put, I was typing it. And I'm like, that's not my fault. If you're too slow to type it, do it through your microphone. And his literal response was, I don't use my microphone. And I said to him, do you have a microphone? As my first question. And he said, yes, I have a microphone. I then said, so why don't you use it? You put yourself at a disadvantage. He just said, I don't want to use it. And all I could think to that was, what's the point then? Why have a microphone if you're not going to use it? Why have this amazing ability that we have to give communication immediately in the second you're thinking it, rather than having to type something out? It just doesn't make sense to me. And like I say, I think there needs to be some sort of system to avoid this. It would improve the game hugely. And again, there are certain caveats you could throw around. Say, if I had preferential mic matchmaking, I was put against teams that also had that same setting turned on. That could potentially balance it. But again, in my opinion, you've hampered yourself already. If you don't use a microphone, it's not my fault if I come against you and I've got a full team that use microphones. It's just standard practice, I've got to be honest. If you ever want to get upwards of sort of high gold to diamond, anywhere there, you need to have communication, at least to some minor degree with a microphone, because just doing it through chat does not cut it at that level. But, that's just my opinion, and it's something that I just kind of really want Ubisoft to have. This may have been a little bit of a rant video, but like I said, it has just been a huge issue in my solo queuing of ranked recently, and I think I'm one game off gold 2 now, because I lost 5 in a row. With people not speaking, and it does my head in, and I kind of want to just bring this to the forefront of something I wanted to talk about. And here's the thing, I want to hear what you guys have to think. Do you think there needs to be a system like this, or do you not really care? Are you one of these people that have a microphone and don't use it? Feel free to let me know why you don't use it when you're playing in ranked. What do you find so offensive about speaking to your team? Other than that, guys, though, I really do hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, a like would be greatly appreciated. If you didn't, the dislike button is just there. Subscribe for more Siege content coming soon, and feel free to check me out on Twitch and Twitter. Other than that, guys, thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.